Okay, this is the first additional pseudocode question I wanted to put to you. It's a little bit different to the previous one in the previous video, but this is from the October-November 2019 paper, and we start off. We've got to examine the following pseudocode, and we've got this pseudocode here. It's very simple pseudocode, and it's basically for 3 marks. Down here for 3 marks, it's asking us, well, what does this code do? What is it doing? So describe what is happening with this code here. Okay? And then after that, I've already answered the first bit. After that, we've got to describe how the pseudocode could be altered to follow any number of values to be inputted. Okay? And then we've got to rewrite the given code, pseudocode, to allow any number of values to be inputted. So we could describe how we're going to do it, and then for the 5 marks, the big marks, rewrite the pseudocode to show what we're talking about in part B. Okay, but let's start with part A. Okay, so what is this pseudocode doing? Well, let's have a look at it first of all. Input A, input B, C, D, E, F, all the way down to L. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 inputs. So describe what's happening. The code asks the user to input 12 values. Okay? Then what is it doing? T. So again, we've got the arrow, assign. We're going to assign A plus B plus C. All these values, these 12 values, we're going to add them all together and put the total into T. So add all values together and assign them to T. I'll put that as total. Okay, I'm assuming it means total. So would that get us all the marks? Well, we've got 1, 2, we've got a third section, output. Okay, so we're working out, there we go. Well, if we didn't work it out already, we're working out the average. So we're going to divide the output, we're going to output the total. Here, look, we're going to output the total, and we're going to divide it by 12. So in this case, I'm going to say calculate average by dividing total T by 12. Okay, then print out average. Okay, so calculate average by dividing, add the values together and assign them to the total T, and that is basically it. So that would get us all 3 marks. We're going through it. I mean, the beauty of this code is there's 3 simple steps. We've got 1, what's happening here, what's happening here, and what's happening here. Okay? Yep, so that would answer part 1. Okay, for the next part of the question, describe how the pseudocode could be altered to allow any number of values to be inputted. Well, if we want to add lots and lots of values, we're going to use something called a loop. Okay, Well, if we refer back to the textbook for this, let me try and show you this. I'm going to use a loop structure, because the loop structure, and I'm on page 137 of the book. I'm going to use a loop structure because the loop structures are there to set a number, as it says here, to set a number of repetitions. When some actions performed as part of an algorithm need repeating, and in this case this does, this is called iteration. Loop structures are used to perform the iteration, to perform repetition. There are 3 different types of loop structure. Now we can use any one for this task, but we can use a for loop. Okay, and the for loop is just basically a set number of repetitions. And if we decided in the question to set that number of repetitions, then that's probably the best one to use. We can use a repeat until, which we saw in the previous question I used. A repetition where the number of repeats is not known. This is completed at least once. So we put in until whatever happens. Okay. Again, in this case, we could use this. A repetition where the number of repeats is not known, it may never be completed. So we can do while loop, and if we remember back to the previous question where it was 999, 4 nines, 9999, now that number may never get put in. So we use the while loop because it may never, or the option of using the while loop, although we did end up using the repeat loop, but the while loop was there, so in case that never occurred, the 9999 never occurred. But we've got a little example here of how we can do them all. So for the for loop, we can set a counter. To do from 1 to 10, print stars. So it would repeat that. Next to end it, but it would count round 10 times and print out 10 stars. Okay, and again we've got the repeat until, and we've got the while loop in there. So, based on this information here, how am I going to answer this question? Well, I'm going to tell it that I'm going to use. I need 3 different things really. So, how would I alter it to allow for any number of values to be inputted? I would use a loop, okay, or I'd use a loop structure. Okay, use a loop structure. Yep. What would it do? This would allow a set number of values decided by the user to be inputted. Okay, and we could also we would need to add a counter to count the number of repetitions. Okay, and then so it would stop when all those repetitions are done. Yeah. Use totaling, so we would divide the total by the number. Set. Okay, so the next bit, rewrite the given pseudocode to allow any number of values to be input. I've prepared this already, so I'll talk you through this. I'm using the for loop here, okay? But first of all, I've set the total, to 0. Okay, the total is the values added together. Okay, every time the user inputs a number, it will be added to the total. Okay, so print how many values will be entered. So that's a print statement, and so the user is going to input the number of values. So if the user wants to input 99 values, then they would put that in there. Okay, and then the for loop here, for counter, the counter is going to be set to run from 1 to whatever the person has put in here for values. So if a person's put in 99, the for loop the for counter will run from 1 to 99. Okay, and that will keep going around. So then within this for loop, the user inputs a number, okay, and then the total, the thing up here, the total is going to become total plus number. Okay, for example, so let's try and get a different pen for this. So if the first number, if number 1 equals 12, so it's going to go around, so the inputs a number. In fact, let me show you on the first number, it puts number 12, so the total becomes the total, which is the amount of 0 plus 12. So that's going to be plus 12. It'll go around again, the person might enter 15. So it goes around again, and we add 15 to the total. So the total now becomes 27. And it goes around again, and it keeps totaling and totaling and totaling until whatever value is put in there, let's say the value is 10 for value, until it's gone around 10 times. Okay, so next, I hope that makes sense. So once it drops out of the loop, once it's gone round 10 times, it's going to output, the average is the total, which is all these numbers added together, the 10 numbers in the total, divided by 10, the number of values, and that would give us our output. So that is how I would do that question there. Rewrite the given pseudocode to allow any number of values to be inputted. But you've got to set the values, or the user's got to set how many values that they want. That would get you, in my opinion, please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but that should get me the full 5 marks on there. Okay, thank you very much indeed.